What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with PPI data coming out for tomorrow, what Jerome Powell just said about the markets that's very important, what you should be watching for tomorrow as Tesla has its shareholder vote announcement that's coming up, the shareholder meeting overall, and other very important stuff that are going to be huge for the share price. But before I break the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon, in just about 1 week from now. Anyways, for Tesla on the 4-hour time frame, we have a very, very nice looking inverse head and shoulders like structure that's developing. We have to see Tesla break some key resistance levels for this to pan out. So I'm going to break down very important factors that involve this, how they could end up affecting Tesla, and how things are looking, in my personal opinion. But as a reminder, we had a lot of stuff that came out for the markets for that's affecting us. For today, if I actually zoom in on SPY and the others, we actually saw SPY break out to a new all-time high to 544, the exact level we called out in the morning. Before coming down a bit after Jerome Powell gave his speech, the QQQ is also still continuing to push, showing lots of resilience and lots of strength. And then Tesla also saw a very, very nice bounce. It actually dipped yesterday all the way down to the 168 area. Today we opened up in the low 170s, only to push all the way up to about 180, and then end up closing the high 170s. So very, very nice day for Tesla and the markets. But the question is, how will things continue? So what happened? Just as a quick reminder, we had the CPI data come out in the morning. Okay, CPI for the core side, month over month was at 0.2%. Year over year for core was at 3.4%. Month over month for inflation was at 0%. That's for all items. And then year over year for CPI for all items was at 3.3%. Everything was below expectations. Below expectations. The market absolutely loved it. That's when the market ended up pumping the way it did. So the market was up, holding up nicely. And then we got some new news from the Fed. So the Fed has kept rates the same as of right now. That's what they've ended up doing. You guys can see right over here that they kept rates the same. And now there's even a 91.7% chance they're going to keep rates the same again for the July meeting. So the Fed is continuing to do this. But something very important came out in the economic projections report from the Fed. They're basically telling us that they may be inclined to keep rates higher for longer. And Jerome Powell gave us a lot of information about this. So that wasn't the best news for the markets. That's when the market started to dip just a bit. Jerome Powell said some very important stuff. He said that the Fed is not ready to cut rates just yet, and they have even more important stuff to be doing. Right now, right now, he said it's too soon to tell if the Fed is sufficiently restrictive. He's saying that just because we have some good numbers, it doesn't necessarily mean the Fed is going to be getting more complacent, and they have to continue to monitor the situation for as long as they possibly can. When asked about the sentiments of Americans, he basically said he does not have a definitive answer about anything that's going down so far. He also mentioned that no one on the Fed committee has basically rate hikes on their base case. As of right now, they have lots and lots of different ideas about how things are going to go, but no one has the idea of raising rates. Instead, they are getting ready for some cuts, but that's where things are becoming a little bit more debatable. So, based on what we're seeing, Jerome Powell is saying that the Fed is in a position right now where they may have to keep rates for higher for longer because they're not really comfortable to start cutting rates. Now, before the Fed was saying that they may do 2 to 3, cuts for the year. Now they're saying it may be as much as like one cut at the most. So things are kind of shifting right now as the Fed is being a little bit more hawkish. Jerome Powell also mentioned when he was asked about the inflationary data, many of the people over there were asking him, what if the data is like very similar to what we got this month and it happens for the next 2 months? Will the Fed cut then? And Jerome Powell said he's in no position to answer that. So that's going to depend on many different factors, all other pieces of data. So he was very ambiguous, didn't give out way too much information as he typically does. But he did make it very clear that right now the Fed is not ready to cut rates. They have to continue to monitor the situation, give it more time. And so far, they have to wait some more time and get more good data for them to continue to be ready to do so. They're waiting on more and more good data for them to do that. They don't have the confidence yet to cut rates, and that's why they're going to be very patient with all of this. So, with that being said, Jerome Powell was a little bit more on the hawkish side. He wasn't more dovish, he was more hawkish. He was telling us that the Fed has more work to do, and that's why the market started to dip just a bit. It wasn't really that crazy. But with that being said, I mean, now the charts are going to tell us a very, very different story. So I'll talk about that in just a minute. Then, on top of all of this, just to make it very clear, now that we got Jerome Powell giving his speech, we're going to see another reaction to Powell tomorrow, a continuation of that. Remember, he was speaking during the last hour of the day today, so there's still more time for the market to react tomorrow. And then tomorrow is going to be Thursday, June 13th, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens. We have important data coming out. We have initial jobless claims, some jobs numbers coming out, not to mention the PPI data report. Now, I am more optimistic about PPI after how CPI has been looking, but this is still going to be a very important for the next CPI as well. PPI tends to be a forward looking indicator for CPI and tends to give us more projections about how things are going to be looking. So for PPI, this is going to be inflation on the producer side and wholesale side. It's coming out 1 hour before the market opens, so this is going to cause another reaction. We could get a little pop thanks to this, but we'll see if the pop lasts. Will we see a dump after that, or will the market just consolidate? I'm going to be talking about that in just a few minutes. Now, the market is currently kind of neutral when it comes to sentiment. We're not too greedy, not too fearful, just in the middle. Momentum right now is more greedy. It's still quite greedy despite the fact that we're already like pumping so much. And we also have the puts and call option position kind of dipping right now to the extreme greed levels. So that's also something else that's worth noting. So this is dropping because right now we're seeing a lot of these calls being bought. And the last time the ratio was close to this, we actually saw the market dip a little bit. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. Market volatility is currently neutral as the VIX is rejecting, hitting 12, and we're at key support on the VIX. For Tesla, we have a lot of stuff coming out. So tomorrow we have important data. We have PPI, the reaction from Jerome Powell, not to mention the annual stockholder meeting for tomorrow. It's going to be Thursday, June 13th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. This is going to be after the market ends up closing. Why is this so important? Because we're going to get a lot of information from shareholders. What do they vote upon for Tesla and Elon Musk? Will Elon Musk end up getting his pay package approved again, or will he end up getting screwed? And that's going to be a big question. I personally support his pay package. I think that's going to be the best move for Tesla. So I can't wait to see what Tesla announces, and it's going to be very, very important. After that, guys, don't forget that we also happen to have some more news coming out that Tesla's claiming that it has two Optimus humanoid robots working autonomously in its factory, which is great news to hear, as there's going to be a lot of improvements to come. And Musk himself has said that the AI industry is worth more than just the cars itself for Tesla. So awesome stuff. However, let me just make it very clear. Uh, as of right now, the robots are not necessarily working on their own. They're actually working based off human inputs. So they're not there yet, but they are getting a lot better. And very soon, they should be able to work without human interference. A lot of improvements are being made. So I think it's very cool. And it's going to be very useful in their labs. So awesome stuff for Tesla. Tesla also has, in my personal opinion, Morgan Stanley has given them an overweight rating, which is awesome to hear. The price price ratio is also right over here around this a little. It's kind of dipping a little bit, but it's still holding up relatively well. We also have other factors coming out, such as the fact that seasonality is suggesting that Tesla tends to be green only about 48% of the time on Thursdays. And we tend to see more volatility around 10 a.m. and also around noon. June tends to be a strong month, so we'll see if Tesla gets a breakout or not. So we'll wait for that. Then finally, volume is getting up to about 90 million. So Tesla's getting a lot more buyers, a lot more volume. That is absolutely awesome to see. So buyers are coming back. We're seeing a lot more volume coming back to Tesla. That's a great sign, at least for the share price. The question is, will this perpetuate going into tomorrow? Now I'm just going to focus on the charts and nothing else. So what's happening for Tesla for tomorrow? Well, we have a lot of data coming out, and overall Tesla got a very, very nice bounce. Tesla was all the way down here at 168. Then we got a lot of buyers stepping in some good volume. We pushed all the way up to 180, and now we're still closing in the high 170s. Overall, it's holding up relatively well. When you zoom out of Tesla like this, you will see that we have a very, very nice looking inverse head and shoulders. This suggests that upside is a strong possibility. If we could try to break past 180, then eventually 185. And if Elon Musk's pay package gets approved, I think there's a good chance this could end up getting a breakout. So far, and what's interesting about Tesla is yesterday we got a little dip, only to get bought back up with a very, very bullish day to day. So this is showing a lot of strength right now. The share price is improving, looking pretty good in my personal opinion. So if we're bearish on Tesla, just hypothetically, let's just go over the hypotheticals and I'll break down what's going to likely happen. You want to see Tesla lose 173 and close below that level. That will be a little bit more bearish for Tesla. If we're bullish, you want to see Tesla break above 180. If we close above 180, we're going to have a lot more upside potential, technically speaking, for 182 and 185. Overall, the share price does look more bullish, even if he's looking at it like this. We have a nice double bottom like structure. So this suggests upside is very probable. So do the other factors. But this depends on the shareholder meeting. For tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla ends up seeing a little pop again. I think we're going to push it a little higher because of PPI and also because of hype involving the shareholder meeting. I think there's going to be a lot of buyers stepping in. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla pushes all the way up to 182, maybe goes a little higher to 185, and then we come back down and just start to consolidate for a bit. And then we could see a big reaction depending on what we get for the shareholder vote. But that's going to happen after the market closes tomorrow. So look for a pop and drop for Tesla for tomorrow. I think there's a very good chance we get that. I think Tesla has a very, very good amount of potential to try to rebound and try to push up to higher levels. I favor upside, and we'll see how things go. Looking at SPY, we're looking pretty good as well. We're on a very, very nice looking uptrend. However, I do want to call out that the daily is not looking as good for SPY because we got a little rejection after Jerome Powell gave his speech and a little liquidity grab. Now, SPY is very simple. If we lose 540, close below that, or hold below that, I could see us dipping down to 537. If we continue to hold above 543, we'll be looking for a push of the all-time high and maybe a break of that to 545. So hold above 543, we could favor bulls more and start pushing higher. Lose 540, then we turn bearish and we fill the gap. And remember those levels very carefully. What do I think is going to happen? Tomorrow we might get a little pop in the morning. We might pop a bit towards 543 to 544 because of PPI, then get a little rejection. Then we might see a lot of sideways consolidation for, I would say, just a couple of hours. Excuse me. Then I think we're going to likely remain sideways. I think that's the most likely possibility, a little pop and then a drop in consolidation. But if we end up losing 540, then I'll be looking for a dip back down to fill this gap. But I favor a pop and drop like movement, some consolidation, and then maybe this gap fill later on, depending on if we lose 540 or not. But that's what I think is the most likely possibility, a pop and drop on SPY and some consolidation after how much we pumped already. And we'll have to see how things go from here. For Nvidia, I'm going to actually pull up the 4-hour time frame because we are showing some contraction on the 4-hour. What I'm seeing is that Nvidia is trying to push a little bit higher, but just be careful because we're getting into tougher and tougher resistance. The closer we get to 130, the tougher the resistance is going to be, closer to 130. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually push a little higher towards 128. We'll have to see if we reject off here or not. We could go a little higher to 130, but I basically favor that this is going to go a little higher. Try to retest 128, then we'll see if we get a rejection or not. If we get that rejection, we could be retesting this high right here around 524.5. If that fails, let's watch I'm sorry, I keep saying 5, guys. I'm sorry. 124.5 will be tested. If we lose that, we'll be coming back down to about 121.5. But I favor there's going to be a little push coming to Nvidia, then maybe a move back down later on. That is the most likely possibility. For Bitcoin, it's the same thing. This is continuing to hold up very well. We might push towards our 50 EMA around the 69,000 area. If we break this, we could go higher. If we reject, we're going to be dipping. There's a bit of a downtrend being established on Bitcoin because we have like a double top right here. And we have this high here at 72,000, came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high. So it might pop a bit, then eventually start dipping. I'll be watching that very carefully as well. For the QQQ is on a very, very nice looking uptrend right now. In my personal opinion, I think that there's potential to go up to about 477.5. If we break that, we could be going even higher towards 478. But I'll be watching some tough resistance between 478 and 480. I think that the QQQ could actually see some sideways price action once we get up to that level. So I'll be watching that very carefully as we're getting very, very close. For Apple, we pushed all the way up to 220, which is awesome, but now we're kind of cooling off a bit. We have to hold 212.5 and then 210. If we lose 210, we'll be dipping down to 207 and 204. So watch the 212 and then 210 areas are key supports. If we end up breaking past 214, we'll be looking for 216. Right now, it's looking a little bit weak right here, so it might pop tomorrow and eventually start dipping, but there might be a test of 210 coming. I'm seeing some weakness on the chart. For Neo, this is looking more bearish to me. We have a nice inverse cup and handle like structure. We have a gap to fill all the way down towards the low 4s, so I think 4.2 could be coming. Look for a pop and drop tomorrow, and 4.2 is likely going to be tested. Anyways, guys, that's it for the main 5 I typically talk about. Now I'm going to go through a speed run for the rest of these tickers, talk about Palantir and others very, very quickly. So for Palantir, it's on a very, very nice looking uptrend, but it might get a little dip first. If we break past 24.5, we're bullish for 25. If we end up losing 23.8, look for a rejection towards 23 flat, where our 20 EMA happens to be. I favor a little drop down to the 20 EMA towards 23.25 and a bounce back up and some sideways price action is the most likely possibility. For Supermicro is also trading sideways within a range. We have resistance at 800. We have support all the way down here at 760. I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of pop a bit towards 790, right where this, right under the wick right over here. Then we come back down. We just continue to consolidate and trade sideways. I find that to be the most likely possibility. For Rivian, we're on a very, very nice looking uptrend. We got this nice little liquidity grab over here. There is a possibility that because we did this, we kind of rejected a bit, we're going to be retesting our 20 EMA. So look for a test of 11.5 or so and see if we bounce or not. But I see that coming for tomorrow, so just be careful and be a little dip coming. SoFi has the same thing. Essentially, got another liquidity grab for rejecting a bit. Going to be looking for a test of about 6.99 to 7 tomorrow, so it might dip a little bit more. So watch for that move. For the IWM Russell 2000, We're on a very, very nice looking uptrend. We could actually dip a bit towards 202.5. If we hit this, we could, hit this and bounce. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down to about the 202 area. So watch for a test of 202 and see if we bounce or not. If we lose 202, we'll be dipping all the way down to 200. If we bounce off this, we will rebound, but look for a little bit of a dip before we see anything else. For AMD, the structure is a little bit more bearish, but we haven't officially lost 158. If we lose 158, we'll be dipping all the way down to this imbalance towards 155. Overall, this looks a little bit weaker, a little bit more bearish, but we haven't officially lost 158, so we'll give it some time. In fact, I think we might actually retest 162 first. So look for a retest of 162 and then see if we come back down. And as long as we're above 158, we're not officially breaking down. We'll have to watch for that. ARM got a crazy move to the upside thanks to bullish news. Going to be looking for a test of this high rate here. I think we could go a little higher towards 160, 160 to 164, but then we could reject after that. So watch for that very carefully. For Coinbase, Coinbase is pushing up very nicely. The 4 hours is actually looking stronger. Going to be looking for a retest of 260, if not 264, and see if you get a rejection off those levels. But I do see a little bit more upside as a stronger possibility. For Amazon, I also see a lot more potential. Uh, right now, it's worth knowing that we're kind of consolidating for now. We're consolidating because Amazon is range bound for the time being, so we'll be watching to see how it ends up reacting. We have support at 186, we have resistance at 188. We're kind of stuck right now. If we end up dipping, watch 185 as support, and we'll see what happens. I see a test of 185. We'll see if we bounce or not, but I see some consolidation coming. For Meta, we have this nice little wick that's grabbing liquidity as we're starting to dip. Watch 505 as support. If we lose this, we'll be dipping down to about 499. I'm seeing a little bit of weakness on the chart, so we'll see how this ends up contracting. For Microsoft, we're looking a little bit more bullish. We're actually trying to break out quite nicely. We do have some tough resistance around 441. If it breaks this, look for a retest of 444 or higher. If we lose 441 and we fail to hold above that, we're going to be retracing back down to 438. But overall, the trend is still very strong for Microsoft. Google has another liquidity grab right here. We're kind of dipping back down lower. Look at resistance at 180. Look at support at 178. If we lose that, I'll be looking for 177.5 or 20 EMA, then 176.5. I fear it's going to come down a bit and retest support right over here in the 177s. So look for a little dip just to be safe. For a few more, we have GME. GME is currently retesting 25. We failed to hold above 30. If we held 30, we could have tried to push higher. We kind of failed so far. So there is potential for us to dip a little bit lower, retest 25. If we lose 25, look for 21.75 to 22. If we bounce off this, look at 29 as resistance. We have to try to hold and close above 30 to turn bullish. Haven't done that yet. So I see a risk of us kind of consolidating around 25 for now. AMC also has the head and shoulders, looks a little bit weak here. We have to try to get back above 4.91. If we fail to do so, 4.68 is coming. So we dip to 4.68 if we don't get back above 4.91. So watch that very carefully. For DJT, we're trying to rebound a bit. We could be looking for a test of 42.5. I think it's going to try to rebound a bit, so we'll see. For the VIX, we're actually dipping a bit, so watch 12 as support. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down to the 11.5 area. If you hold this, we're going to rebound back up to 12.5. The VIX is still at this support, so we will see how it reacts tomorrow, depending on PPI. The 10-year Treasury yield is still kind of flat. We'll see if we get a rebound to about 4.38 or not. This depends on what reaction we get from PPI. Same thing with the dollar. The dollar has to try to break above 4.82 to try to break out. If it fails to do so, it might just reject from here. So it's going to likely reject unless we break through this. I'll have to wait and see. We need to try to get back above 4.82 to turn bullish on the dollar, which would be bearish for the markets. With that being said, guys, tomorrow is going to be another massive day for the markets. We have the reaction to what Jerome Powell said today. That's still going to continue tomorrow. Not to mention PPI data. And then finally, we have Tesla's shareholder meeting. I think Tesla may outperform the market and try to push higher, so we'll see how things go. But with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one for tomorrow. Thanks again, guys. Tesla to the moon because the long term is very bright, despite what's coming. And there might be some upside coming for Tesla for tomorrow as it's showing some strength, technically speaking. All right, so let's see what happens. I'll be back to report PPI for you guys tomorrow, and peace out.